I never thought I'd be the guy who let a complete stranger pay to live in my apartment before he'd even seen the inside of it. But by February, I was so tired of being the only one bleeding money that I stopped asking questions. The apartment is the top half of a 1901 brownstone in Bed-Stuy, parlor floor and garden level, original plaster medallions, pocket doors, the whole thing that looks like $1 million on a Sunday open house Instagram story. Rent had just jumped to $4,300 after the landlord did the math on inflation. I was making decent money as a copywriter, but decent money in New York is just slow drowning. My savings account had $1,300 in it, and a note from myself that said, "Do not touch, catastrophic only." I was one vet bill, one freelance client ghosting, one anything away from calling my mom and hearing the soft, sad, "Well, honey, you tried," I'd been running from since I was 22. I posted the usual ads, Facebook housing groups, listings project, Roomie, even the dreaded Craigslist. I wrote the listing like a dating profile. Sun-drenched, quiet professional preferred, no couples, no pets, must love plants, and paying on the first. I included photos of the exposed brick and the clawfoot tub and conveniently left out the part where the second bedroom is a windowless 9x11 box that used to be a walk-in closet before someone slapped a door on it and called it legal. I set the rent at $2,200 utilities included and waited. 3 months of silence, weirdos, and flakes. One guy showed up high and asked if the radiator could be used to cook crack. A couple wanted to know if they could keep their snake in the living room. He's very chill. A girl cried because the vibe was wrong for her manifesting. I started refreshing the ads at 3 a.m. like a junkie. Then, on a Thursday night in late February, while I was eating cold lo mein straight from the carton and doom scrolling, I got a DM from someone named Elias Chen. The message was one long, perfectly punctuated paragraph. "Hi Jake, I saw your listing on Listings Project. I'm relocating from Seattle for a senior ML engineering role. Remote first, occasional Manhattan office days. 30, non-smoker, no pets, quiet, excellent credit, 810, can provide landlord references, pay stubs, and full background check tonight if needed. I'm looking to move immediately. Would love to see the place tomorrow evening or any time this weekend that works for you. Happy to Venmo a deposit tonight to hold it if it's still available so you can cancel other viewings. Let me know what works. Thanks, Elias. No emojis, no yo, no wide, just competence." I read it 3 times waiting for the catch. There wasn't one. I replied that tomorrow at 6 p.m. worked and asked if $6,600 up front, first, last security, was okay to hold it. I expected radio silence or haggling. He sent a thumbs up emoji, his only one ever, and asked for my Venmo. 3 payments hit my phone before I'd even closed the app. $2,200 times 3, each with the memo, "Excited to be your new roommate." The smiley face felt polite, not creepy. I screenshotted it and sent it to my group chat like I'd won the lottery. Friday at 5:58 p.m. My buzzer rang. I opened the door expecting some Patagonia vest tech bro with AirPods and a rescue dog. Instead, there was a guy about my height, maybe 30, bald by choice, wearing black joggers and a charcoal hoodie. No coat even though it was 28 degrees out. He had a black North Face duffel slung over each shoulder and was dragging a single clear plastic storage bin on wheels. He looked like he'd walked straight out of an airport and decided furniture was for suckers. "Jake?" "Yeah." "Elias?" He nodded once, stepped inside, set the bags down without asking, and scanned the living room the way cops do in movies, slow, 360 degrees like he was photographing it with his eyes. Then he smiled the smallest possible smile and said, "I'll take it." I hadn't even shown him the bedroom. I laughed, awkward, and said, "Don't you want to see the room first?" He shook his head. "I trust the photos, and the energy feels compatible." I remember thinking that was a weird thing to say, but $6,600 was already in my account, and the guy wasn't twitching or smelling like weed. So I shrugged and started walking him toward the back hallway. He followed without another word. When I opened the door to the windowless room, bare bulb, peeling beige paint, radiator that knocks like it's trying to escape, I braced for the usual reaction. The polite grimace, the "oh, it's cozy," the slow backing away. Instead, Elias just nodded again, deeper this time, like someone checking off the final item on a list. "Perfect," he said. "I work nights. Light pollution is an issue for me." Then he asked if he could paint the walls matte black. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't laughing. His face was the same pleasant neutral it had been since he walked in. I told him the landlord would evict us both. He said, "Understood," and asked where to Venmo the remaining broker fee I'd never even mentioned. I made up a number on the spot, $500, because why not? It landed before I finished the sentence. He shook my hand once, firm, dry, exactly 2 pumps, and asked which shelf in the fridge he could use. I told him the left side was his. He thanked me, picked up his duffels like they weighed nothing, and walked into the windowless room. The door closed. I heard the deadbolt slide home with a soft, expensive click. I stood in the hallway for a long time staring at the closed door. I'd lived alone for 2 years and never once used the deadbolt on a bedroom door. I definitely hadn't given him a key. That was the first night the apartment got cold enough for me to see my breath, even though the radiator was clanking like it was trying to start a punk band. The next morning, I opened the fridge to grab milk and froze. The left side now held exactly 24 bottles of some off-brand chocolate protein shake, plain black label. No nutrition facts, just the word nocturnal in white block letters. They were arranged in perfect rows, 4 across, 6 deep. The expiration date on every single one was April 19th, 2026, my birthday next year. I laughed it off as a weird coincidence and took a picture to send to my friends. When I came home that night, there were 38. Same brand, same date. I counted 3 times. The fridge wasn't even cold enough to explain condensation. The bottles were room temperature, like they'd been printed into existence. I got curious, or stupid, and cracked one open. The smell hit me first. Melted chocolate coins, pennies, and something medicinal like children's cough syrup left on a radiator. I drank half in one go, just to prove I wasn't scared of my own roommate's groceries. It coated my tongue like latex paint. 10 minutes later, the room started breathing. Not metaphorically. The walls actually flexed in and out, slow, like lungs. I sat on the couch and watched my house inhale and exhale for 3 straight hours. While I answered work emails, I have zero memory of typing and folded every piece of laundry in my hamper into perfect squares. When I came out of it, there was a circle of blue painter's tape on the kitchen floor exactly 6 feet in diameter. I still don't know where the tape came from. I told myself I was just tired. 2 weeks in, I brought a girl home, Maya from Hinge, second date. Things were going well. We were on the couch, making out like teenagers, when she suddenly went rigid and whispered, "Who the fuck is that?" I turned around. The kitchen was pitch black, but in the darkness stood a tall figure wearing nothing but black boxer briefs. He was holding my 8-inch Wusthof chef's knife by the blade, letting it dangle, testing the balance like a jeweler with a diamond. The overhead light from the living room caught the edge and threw a thin white line across his chest. He didn't move. Just stood there watching us with his head tilted 6 degrees too far. I jumped up and flipped on the kitchen light. Empty. Knife block was rotated exactly 180 degrees from how I always leave it. Maya grabbed her coat and was out the door before I could even say sorry. She blocked me on everything before she hit the sidewalk. The next morning, I found the knife slid into my pillowcase, tip resting in the exact hollow where my neck had been while I slept. There was a single gray hair on the blade that wasn't mine. I'm blonde. Elias is bald. That same day, I lifted the lid on the toilet tank to fix a running flush and found a waterproof bag taped to the inside. Inside were 23 fresh Polaroids, all of me asleep. Mouth open around the CPAP mask, one eye half open like I was trying to wake up. Taken from above, from the side, from inside the fucking closet. The last one was dated that morning, time-stamped 4:47 a.m. I'd been at work since 8 a.m. yesterday. I bought a Ring camera that afternoon and pointed it straight down the hallway. First night it caught anything useful was a Tuesday. I was up late doom scrolling, watching the live feed on my phone with the volume off. At 3:33 a.m. exactly, Elias's door opened. He stepped out in the same black boxer briefs, skin so pale it looked blue in the night vision. He walked to my bedroom door and stopped. Stood there motionless for 9 minutes and 14 seconds. Didn't sway, didn't shift weight, didn't blink. Then he lifted one foot, placed it behind him, and walked backward into his room perfectly, heel to toe, like someone had pressed rewind on a human being. The timestamp never jumped. I fell asleep with the phone in my hand. 4 seconds of black on my end. When I jerked awake, the live feed was now pointed at my face from inside my bedroom. The camera was still physically mounted in the hallway. I know because I ran out and touched it. It hadn't moved. But on the little screen I could see myself drooling on my pillow while something tall and pale stood at the foot of my bed staring down at me. When I looked up in real life, the room was empty. The recording ended there. The file is 11 seconds long now. I still have the original 9-minute version saved on a thumb drive I keep in my sock. I told myself it was February. I told myself the guy was just eccentric. I told myself I'd finally adulted my way into the easiest roommate situation in the history of New York City. I was so busy celebrating the money that I didn't notice the deadbolt had engaged from the inside. Or that he never asked me for a copy of the key. Or that when I walked past his door an hour later, barefoot on the hardwood, I could feel the temperature drop 10 degrees in the space of one footstep, like I'd stepped in front of an open freezer. I went to bed grinning like an idiot with $6,600 burning a hole in my bank account, and the smug knowledge that I wasn't moving back to Ohio after all. The next morning I woke up to the sound of the deadbolt sliding back. The door opened exactly 4 inches. I never saw him leave the room. I just heard the soft pad of bare feet on hardwood, the fridge opening and closing once, and then the door shutting again. The deadbolt clicked home. That was the last time I ever heard that door open during daylight. I'm only writing this because the motel clerk just knocked to ask if I'm okay. I guess I've been typing for 6 straight hours and haven't left the room once. My phone is dead, my laptop is at 4%, and every time I close my eyes I can still smell that freezer. This is going to be long. I'm not cutting anything. If you're in Philly and looking for a room, read the whole thing. I live in a 120-year-old row house on a cute little street in Fishtown that looks like it belongs on a postcard until you see the rent. 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, original pine floors that creak like they're gossiping about you, 14-foot ceilings, exposed brick, the whole HGTV starter pack. I bought it as a fixer-upper in 2019 when I still believed in 5-year plans. By January, the mortgage plus taxes plus the new inflation adjustment, my landlord tacked on came to $2,900 a month. I do graphic design and motion graphics freelance. Good months I clear $4,000. Bad months I eat oatmeal for dinner and pray a client pays an invoice. January was a bad month. February was looking worse. I had 38 days to find a roommate or start selling my furniture on Facebook Marketplace. I posted everywhere. The ad was honest, mostly. I included photos of the gorgeous living room and the clawfoot tub and cropped the second bedroom so you couldn't tell it was a converted dental operatory from the 1940s with a slop sink and no windows. I asked $1,300 plus utilities. I got the usual parade of nightmares. The guy who brought his emotional support tarantula, the couple who wanted to turn the dining room into a polypod, the girl who FaceTimed her astrologer during the tour and asked if Mercury was in retrograde in the bathroom. Then, on a Wednesday night when I was drunk on 2 IPAs and self-pity, I got an email through the listings project. Subject: professional preservation artist seeking quiet workspace. Can pay 3 to 6 months cash up front. From marcus.holloway.works@gmail.com. The email was 1 paragraph, perfectly spelled, 0 emojis. Hi, I'm a freelance preservation artist, ethical taxidermy and wet specimen work, relocating from Baltimore. Your second bedroom looks ideal. Good ventilation, floor drain, northern light exposure through the hallway window. I keep unusual hours but am extremely clean and quiet. Happy to pay 3 months cash on move-in and a $500 non-refundable deposit for workspace modifications if you allow minor improvements. Shelving, sealed flooring, exhaust fan. Portfolio attached. References available. Can view any evening this week. Thank you, Marcus. The portfolio was actually incredible. Rogue taxidermy mice in tiny Victorian morning dresses, a baby alligator playing a grand piano made of mouse bones, a 2-headed squirrel conductor, Weird as hell, but the stitching was museum quality. I told myself rich eccentric artists are a Philly tradition. I replied that Thursday worked. He showed up at 6:02 p.m. in a black hoodie, black joggers, black nitrile gloves already on. Mid-30s, 6'2" maybe, thin but wiry shaved head, no visible tattoos or piercings. Carried one army surplus duffel, a folding stainless work table, and a pelican case on wheels the size of a 5-year-old. Smelled faintly of rubbing alcohol and wintergreen. He walked through the house once, silent, nodding at corners like he was measuring sight lines. When I opened the door to the second bedroom, he actually smiled, small, polite, but real. "Perfect," he said. "The drain is exactly where I hoped." He counted out $4,200 in banded 20s on my kitchen counter like he was buying a used car, plus a separate envelope with 5 crisp hundreds for the inconvenience of fumes. Shook my gloved hand once and asked if he could start moving in that night. I said yes, because I am an idiot who needed groceries. That was February 11th. The first week was weird but manageable. He kept vampire hours, door closed by 7 p.m., faint chemical smell by 9, low mechanical hum starting around 1:30 a.m. I'd wake up at 3 and hear soft scraping, the occasional high-pitched whine of a Dremel, water running in the slop sink for exactly 11 minutes. The hallway always smelled like a hospital trying to cover something up. He installed 2 industrial air purifiers that sounded like idling jets and taped the seams of his door with blue painter's tape every night. He was unfailingly polite when we crossed paths, called me sir, took his shoes off at the door, left the kitchen spotless. Then the packages started. First, it was normal-ish. Borax, 90% isopropyl, molding alginate. Then came the boxes I had to sign for, because they were biological materials, keep refrigerated. Then a pallet showed up that had to be forklifted onto the porch. A commercial chest freezer the size of a twin bed. The delivery guys asked where I wanted the cadaver freezer. I laughed like it was a joke. Marcus tipped them $100 each in cash and wheeled it into his room himself. The credit card charges started the same week. $847 to a medical supply place in Delaware for embalming fluid, arterial, cavity, and co-injection, 24 gallons. $1,200 to a place called Eternal Preservation Supply for premium orbital clay, flesh tone. $619 for a Cavo dental drill and assorted burrs. Every charge had my name on it. My Amazon was still logged in on the living room TV. I never log out. I changed the password. The charges kept coming from a new account with my name and his shipping address. I knocked on his door the night the $1,200 charge hit. He answered in a full-face respirator, Tyvek suit, and booties, holding a syringe the length of my forearm filled with pink fluid. "I think there's a mistake with the charges," I said. He tilted his head. "I must have used your card. You left it visible when you ordered Thai last week. I'll reimburse you tonight." He zelled me $2,500 before I got back to the couch. Memo: supplies plus inconvenience. I bought groceries and told myself to stop being paranoid. The smell got worse, not rot, something cleaner and sharper, like a morgue that also does dentistry. The air purifiers couldn't keep up. It started seeping into my clothes, my bed sheets, the couch. I bought essential oil diffusers and ran them 24/7. Didn't help. One Thursday in March, I came home early from a client dinner downtown. Too much wine, Uber surge pricing. Marcus was on the front porch wrestling a long black plastic bag out of the back of a silver Prius Uber. The bag was heavy enough that he had to brace it against his hip. It left a wet streak on the concrete that smelled like iron and bleach. He saw me, smiled that same calm smile, and said, "Roadkill deer from a buddy upstate. Free materials. Don't worry, I double bag." The bag was 6.5 feet long. I measured it with my eyes because I'm 6 feet 1 inch and it was taller than me. That night, I couldn't sleep. The hum was louder and underneath it was a rhythmic wet chopping. Slow, patient, like someone cutting carrots with a cleaver the size of a stop sign. At 3:12 a.m., I opened my bedroom door for water. His door was cracked 6 inches. Light poured out, bright surgical white from LED shop lights strung across the ceiling like a film set. I saw his shadow on the far wall, impossibly tall, arms too long, raising something over his head and bringing it down in deliberate, practiced strokes. Each impact made a soft, final sound that traveled through the floorboards into my feet. I closed my door and pushed my dresser in front of it. Didn't sleep. The next morning, he left a note on the fridge in perfect block letters. "Thanks for being understanding about the noise last night. Skinning is the loudest stage. Almost done with this one. M." Under the note was a crisp $100 bill. I started staying at my girlfriend Lena's place in South Philly 4 nights a week. Told her I had a mold issue. She bought it because she's kind and I'm a coward. Every time I came home, there were new horrors. A rolled vinyl sheet the color of raw chicken breast leaning against the hallway wall. A box labeled eye caps, assorted sizes, 500 count. A printed catalog from a company called The Y in Ohio opened to a page advertising life-size flexible posing armatures, adult male. 2 weeks ago, I found the notebook. It was on the kitchen counter next to the coffee maker, black spiral, no writing on the cover. I thought it was mine until I opened it. Page after page of anatomical drawings done in mechanical pencil so precise they looked printed. Flayed torsos, facial removal patterns with dotted lines like dressmaking patterns, notes on ligament retention for natural gesture. Every measurement was labeled Subject J and matched me exactly. 183 centimeters standing height, 79.3 kilograms current weight. I'd lost 4 pounds from stress. Cranial circumference 58.2 centimeters. Arm span 185 centimeters. There was a full-page spread titled Proposed Final Pose, The Welcoming, with a figure standing contrapposto, skin removed, one arm raised in a friendly wave. The face was blank, but the hairline, the shoulders, the little scar on the left knee from a biking accident when I was 12, everything was mine. There was a post-it on the page, "Start tanning next week if weight stabilizes." I confronted him that night. He listened calmly while wearing purple nitrile gloves and a paper gown, hands folded like a priest. "It's not what you think," he said. "I don't kill anything. Everything is donated willingly. Artists, body donors, people who want their remains turned into art instead of ash or dirt. Ethical sourcing. I have paperwork." I asked why my measurements were in his book. He smiled, small, almost shy. "Because you're perfect. No tattoos, symmetrical, good muscle definition without bulk. And you're right here. It's convenient." I told him to get out by the end of the month. He said, of course, handed me an envelope with $8,100 cash, 3 months plus early termination fee, and thanked me for my understanding. That should have been the end. It wasn't. Last night we had a brownout. Some idiot hit a pole on Gerard. Power flickered for 5 seconds. The chest freezer in his room started screaming its alarm, high-pitched, panicked, like a smoke detector with anxiety. The smell that rolled down the hallway was so thick I gagged before I reached his door. I banged on it yelling that the freezer was defrosting, that we were going to have a biohazard. He opened the door immediately. He was wearing a full disposable Tyvek suit splattered with dark freckles, clear face shield fogged with breath, purple gloves shiny to the elbow. Behind him, under lights bright enough to land planes, was the stainless table. On it was a body, male, mid-20s, skin removed in one perfect sheet and laid to the side like a wetsuit peeled off after swimming. The face was gone, just raw red skull with wet blue eyes staring up at the ceiling like they were still trying to see. The chest cavity was cranked open with what looked like a rib spreader from an autopsy kit, everything inside removed and neatly laid out on blue pads. Heart, lungs, liver, all shining under the LEDs. The arms were posed mid-gesture, fingers curled like the figure was about to wave hello. Marcus looked at me, looked at the body, looked back at me. "Don't worry," he said, voice muffled through the respirator. "That one's almost finished. Yours will be better. I've been curing the skin for weeks. You've got such good posture." I ran. I left my phone, my wallet, my laptop, everything except the clothes I was wearing and my keys. I heard the drills start up again as I sprinted down the hall. The front door deadbolt wouldn't turn. He'd changed the lock sometime in the last 48 hours. I went out the second-floor bathroom window, dropped 12 feet into the alley, and ran barefoot until I hit Frankfurt Avenue. I'm in a Red Roof Inn off the 95 right now. Used the last of my cash for 2 nights. My cards are all maxed from charges I never made. Chest freezers, embalming fluid, A commercial autopsy saw that costs more than my car. The police came, took a statement, went to the house. Marcus answered the door in normal clothes, showed them his deer processing permit, and said I was a disgruntled roommate making up stories because I was behind on my half of the rent. They left, told me to take it to landlord-tenant court. I can still smell that room on my skin. It's in my hair, under my fingernails, in my throat. I've showered 6 times with the motel's entire bottle of shampoo. If you're in Philly and you see an ad for a beautiful room in a Fishtown row house, cheap, available immediately, cash preferred, artist okay, run. He's very polite. He pays months in advance. He'll measure you with his eyes the first time you meet and tell you the light is perfect. He already knows what you'll look like when he's done. I keep refreshing this post waiting for someone to tell me what to do. The clerk just knocked again and asked if I need anything. I told him I'm fine. I'm not fine. If I stop updating, please send police to address redacted with a warrant and breathing masks. Tell them to check the chest freezer and the slop sink drain. Tell them the art isn't finished yet. I'm typing this because the words are clawing their way out of my skull, and if I don't let them out, they'll tear me apart from the inside. My name is Ryan. I'm 31. 5 months ago, I let a woman named Erin move into the second bedroom of my 2-bedroom railroad apartment in Capitol Hill because the rent had just jumped to $3,050, and I was one missed paycheck from moving into my car, and she showed up with a suitcase the color of bone, and an envelope thick with 20s, and a smile that felt like being stared at by something wearing a human face. She paid 4 full months plus an extra $400 for energetic alignment before she'd even seen the second bedroom, pressed the money into my hands like communion, hugged me so hard I felt her heartbeat through 3 layers of Lululemon, and whispered directly into my ear, "Ryan, your soul recognized me before your mind did. This is the beginning of your becoming." I laughed because laughing was easier than admitting the way my entire body went cold when she said it. I took the money. I gave her the key. I told myself she was just another overpriced coach girl who would stay in her room and do breath work and leave me alone. I was so wrong that the memory of that moment tastes like rust in my mouth now. The first 6 or 7 weeks were the kind of slow tightening you don't notice until the rope is already cutting off circulation and you realize you can't feel your fingers anymore. She burned Palo Santo every single morning and every single night until the smoke detectors chirped themselves hoarse and the entire apartment smelled like a head shop that had been set on fire and then blessed. She did breath work at dawn that sounded like someone having the longest, most devotional orgasm of their life through the paper-thin wall, these long, shuddering inhales and exhales that made my own lungs sync up against my will. She spent 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours a day on Zoom calls with her $18,000 certification program, repeating mantras in that syrupy, hypnotic voice that started crawling under my skin and laying eggs after the first week. She had a rose gold MacBook that cost more than my car, and a 5-subject notebook with color-coded tabs, and she wrote constantly, always rocking slightly forward and back, lips moving silently, eyes half-lidded like she was taking dictation from something standing just behind her that I couldn't see. I'd come home from the grocery store or a rare client meeting and find her sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by hundreds of index cards covered in red Sharpie, whispering to herself in what might have been English or might have been something older, something that made the hair on my arms stand up. I'd say hey, and she'd look up like she was surfacing from deep water and say, "Ryan, your field feels really contracted today. Do you want to do a quick cord cutting?" I always said no. She always looked like I'd kicked her in the stomach, eyes filling with tears for a split second before the smile snapped back into place, and then she'd go right back to her cards. Then came the Thursday night with the peppermint tea. I was halfway through a 6-pack of cheap IPA and a carton of cold Lomen, feet on the coffee table, half watching some true crime documentary I'd already seen, when she drifted out of her room holding 2 steaming mugs and asked in the softest voice imaginable if she could practice a discovery session on me for her homework. She promised it would take 20 minutes and she'd Venmo me for dinner. I shrugged, because free money and I was already buzzed. 20 minutes turned into 2.5 hours of questions that started normal, career goals, health habits, relationship patterns, and slid slowly, deliberately into things like, what's the earliest memory of shame you can access? And, If you could burn one part of your identity tonight, what would it be? And who would you be if you finally let go of the lie that you're unlovable? I gave her a cocktail of real answers and total sarcasm because I thought we were just messing around, that this was some silly coaching exercise. She typed every syllable, nodding slowly, eyes shining with tears, mirroring my posture so perfectly it felt like watching myself from the outside. At one point, she grabbed both my hands so hard my knuckles cracked and whispered, "Ryan, I can feel your soul screaming to be free. This is the most powerful session I've ever held." When it was over, she hugged me so hard I felt her ribs and sobbed into my shoulder for a full minute, her whole body shaking like she'd just witnessed a miracle. The next morning, there was a 9-page PDF in my inbox with graphs of my alignment score, color-coded core wounds, a 30-day action plan that included 5:30 a.m. wake-ups, ice baths, and journaling prompts like, "What part of the old Ryan is ready to die today?" I wrote back that I'd been drunk and joking. She sent a 7-minute voice note telling me resistance was just the ego clinging to a smaller version of me, that she was holding unconditional loving space for my breakthrough. I ignored the Calendly link. I thought that would be the end. It was only the opening act of a play I didn't know I'd already sold tickets to. She turned Sunday 10 a.m. into non-negotiable alignment check-ins. If I tried to sleep through them, she would sit outside my bedroom door and do box breathing so loudly I could track the 4 count through the wood until I opened the door just to make the noise stop. She had printed agendas on thick cream paper that smelled like lavender and money. She quoted things I'd said in passing, things I didn't remember saying, things I know I never said. She installed a whiteboard in the kitchen labeled Ryan's Commitments in purple marker, and every single time I mentioned wanting to do literally anything, it went up there. If I didn't do it, she drew little crying faces and left notes underneath, asking how choosing comfort over growth felt in my body. She started sending me 1,000-word email recaps of completely normal conversations. I'd say, "Traffic sucked," and 2 hours later I'd have an essay about how I was manifesting resistance with my language. One night in late May, I woke up choking on lavender and something metallic. Erin was straddling my chest in the pitch dark, knees pinning my arms to the mattress, palms pressed flat over my sternum so hard I couldn't expand my lungs. She was whispering in a language I didn't recognize, rocking back and forth, eyes rolled back until only the whites showed. There was warm oil smeared in a perfect spiral across my bare chest, and the smell made my stomach lurch. When I finally managed to shove her off, she landed on the floor, smiling like a kid who'd been caught sneaking cookies, and said she'd been called to clear a major blockage in my solar plexus that was keeping me from receiving abundance. The next morning, my chest was covered in perfect fingerprint bruises. She photographed them every single day for 2 weeks, zooming in, tilting her head, saying she needed to track the release of stagnant energy. When I screamed at her never to touch me again, she started crying and said my anger was proof the clearing had worked. A week after the chest incident, I came home late from a bar and found the bathroom door locked, tub running, steam pouring out from under the door like the building was on fire. I knocked, and Erin opened it naked, dripping, eyes glassy and huge. The tub was full of murky gray water with herbs and flower petals floating on top, candles on every surface flickering red. She smiled this massive beatific smile and said she'd prepared a subconscious reprogramming bath for me, that my highest self had already agreed in the ether and reached for the hem of my shirt like she was going to undress me right there in the hallway. I backed away and locked myself in my room. She dragged the entire cast iron tub, full of water, into the living room because the integration needed to finish in shared space. Sat in it fully clothed for 6 straight hours, singing my name in this high, childlike lullaby voice until the water went cold and the candles burned down to wax puddles shaped like screaming mouths. She covered every single mirror in the apartment with photos of me sleeping, some with my eyes open, some taken from inside my closet, some from directly above the bed. She wrote on the glass in red lipstick, "Look at who you're becoming. Stop hiding from your power. Erin sees you even when you don't." When I tried to peel one off, she appeared behind me in the reflection, even though she was physically in the kitchen making tea, and whispered that removing them would sever the soul contract. I smashed one mirror with my fist and she didn't flinch. She just knelt in the broken glass, picked up the biggest shard, held it to her throat, smiling, and said, "See? You can't destroy the reflection. It lives in me now." 3 nights ago, I woke up because my arms wouldn't move. My wrists were tied to the headboard with the silk scarves she uses for nervous system regulation, tied tight enough that my fingers were already purple. Erin was sitting fully dressed on the edge of my bed, stroking my hair, eyes bloodshot, rocking slightly. She was whispering over and over, "Shh. The old Ryan is thrashing, but he can't hold on much longer. Just a few more minutes and you'll be free," I screamed until my voice shredded. She looked heartbroken, tears streaming down her face, and said, "This much resistance means we're so close. I love you enough to hold you through it." I started hyperventilating, and she finally untied me, kissed my forehead like a mother putting a child to bed, and said my nervous system wasn't regulated enough for full integration yet. Last week, she started leaving the apartment at 3 a.m. and coming back at dawn carrying grocery bags that dripped something dark onto the hallway floor. She'd smile at me with blood under her fingernails and say she'd been gathering medicine for the final phase. One morning, I found a mason jar in the fridge filled with thick red liquid labeled Ryan. Day 87 in her handwriting. When I opened it, the smell made me vomit in the sink. 2 nights ago, I caught her burning my childhood photos in a metal bowl on the kitchen counter, the ones my mom mailed me after I moved out here. She was naked, swaying, chanting my full legal name over and over while the flames ate my face. When I screamed what the fuck, she looked up with tears streaming and said, "We have to destroy the old anchors so the new you has space to land." This morning's email was 41 pages. Graphs tracking my energetic frequency, fake quotes from me about how grateful I am, a section titled Final Integration Phase, Day 1, with today circled in red and the words Total Rebirth written in what looks like actual blood. At the bottom in 72-point font, "Your highest self has already paid in full. The old Ryan is dying tonight. I'm ready to receive you." I left while she was in the bathroom screaming her morning activation ritual. 25 solid minutes of primal howling that rattles the windows and makes dogs 3 blocks away start barking. I took nothing but my laptop, wallet, and the clothes I was wearing. I can still hear that howling in my bones. She has keys. She has my phone password. She has photos of me sleeping with my eyes open. She has jars of something with my name on them. She still pays rent early. She has never once raised her voice at me in anger. Everything is soft, loving, relentless. If anyone sees this and knows how to disappear from someone who thinks breaking you is the same as saving you, tell me. I can't go back. Last night, before she untied me, she leaned in close and whispered, "Soon you won't have to fight anymore, Ryan. I'll carry the parts worth keeping." Update 7:19 a.m. Another voice memo. The transcription just says, "I can smell you from here." There's wet breathing and something dragging across the floor. I'm leaving the state tonight. If I stop updating, someone burned the apartment on 12th Avenue. Tell them the breakthrough killed the old tenant and it's looking for a new one. I'm only typing this because my hands won't stop shaking and I need to get the first part of this out before I lose the nerve. I live in a little 1940s duplex on the east side, the kind of place with original hardwood floors and a backyard full of pecan trees that looks cute on Zillow, but costs $2,650 a month now. I'm 29, freelance motion graphics, and by February, I was one overdraft fee away from having to move back to my parents' spare room in Ohio. I put up the usual roommate ad, quiet preferred, no pets, must be cool with the occasional late-night editing session, and got the usual parade of weirdos until Caleb messaged me. He showed up on a Tuesday afternoon in a gray hoodie 2 sizes too big, carrying a single black duffel and a small hardshell cooler that he never let out of his sight. 27, soft-spoken, dropped out of UT med school the year before, for personal reasons, he said, and smiled like that explained everything. He paid first plus last plus deposit in cash before he'd even seen the second bedroom, counted out 27 crisp hundreds on my kitchen counter like he was buying a used car. Then he asked if he could have the entire bottom shelf of the fridge and if I would mind occasional odors, because he was starting a pretty intense deparasiting protocol under the guidance of a functional medicine doctor he'd found online. He offered an extra $300 a month if I never opened the opaque Tupperwares. I laughed, shook his cold, dry hand and said, "Sure, man, as long as the rent clears." He moved in that same night. The first 10 days were honestly fine if you didn't breathe through your nose in the kitchen. The house started smelling like the inside of a meat locker that had been left in the sun, this heavy, sweet iron tang that clung to the back of your throat. Caleb kept vampire hours, up at 3 a.m., blending something that sounded like gravel in a blender, drinking it through a wide red straw while standing barefoot in front of the open fridge. He kept a little whiteboard on the fridge door with his weight written in blue dry erase marker. 178, 180, 183, 187, climbing a pound or two every day. He said it was normal, that parasites release toxins when they die and you bloat before you deflate. He was polite about it, always asked if the smell was bothering me, always wiped the counter until it gleamed even when there were little pink smears he missed in the grout. I stayed in my room with the door closed and headphones on and told myself $300 extra a month was worth a weird roommate. Then I started waking up sore. It was little things at first. A tender spot on the inside of my left thigh, 4 small bruises in a perfect half moon. I figured I'd banged into the corner of the bed frame in my sleep. Washed the sheets anyway, checked for bed bugs, found nothing. 3 nights later, the same thing on the right thigh, deeper this time, skin broken in one spot. I started sleeping in sweatpants. The bruises kept coming anyway, always in sets of 4, always on the softest meat of my inner thighs, always gone by evening like they'd been sucked back into my body. I lost 4 pounds that first week without changing what I ate. I chalked it up to stress. Caleb gained 9. He started wearing my hoodies because his own stopped fitting. He'd walk past me in the hallway and the fabric would stretch tight across his stomach, this new roundness that looked wrong on his narrow frame, like something had been inflated under the skin. He caught me staring once and just smiled this slow, satisfied smile and said, "Growth is messy, man. Wait till you see the other side." I laughed because that's what you do when someone says something creepy but they're still paying rent. The fridge started humming louder, this low, wet vibration that traveled through the floorboards at night. Sometimes the power would flicker for half a second, and I'd hear a soft slosh from inside, like a waterbed shifting. Caleb would pad out in nothing but boxer briefs, belly leading the way now, and stand in the open door for minutes at a time just staring at the bottom shelf, one hand resting on the swell like a pregnant woman feeling for kicks. I pretended not to notice. By the end of week 5, I was down 11 pounds total. My jeans were sliding off my hips. My face looked hollow in the mirror. I was hungry all the time, this deep, gnawing ache that never went away no matter how many tacos I shoved down my throat. Caleb hit 201 on the whiteboard and had to buy new sweatpants. He looked tight, skin shiny and stretched, faint purple lines radiating out from his navel like something underneath was trying to spread its fingers. I started locking my bedroom door. It didn't help. The bruises got deeper. Some nights I'd wake up to a sharp, burning pinch low on my thigh and swear I could feel teeth for a split second before the pain blurred into soreness. I'd flip on the light and the room would be empty, doors still locked from the inside, but the bruises would already be blooming dark and perfect. I bought a cheap security camera and pointed it at my bed. The footage showed nothing, just me thrashing in my sleep, kicking the covers off, then going suddenly still for minutes at a time like someone had pressed pause. The audio picked up wet, smacking sounds I couldn't explain. I stopped eating anything that came out of our fridge just in case. Caleb noticed. He started cooking for me. Rare steaks, raw egg yolks whipped with heavy cream, liver pâté he made himself. He'd leave plates outside my door with little notes that said, "Nourishment for the transition" in his neat medical school handwriting. I threw them away unopened. The hunger got worse. That's where I'm stopping for now because my phone is dying and I need to move the car again. I'll post part 2 when I find somewhere with outlets and a view of all the doors. If you're in Austin and you see a room for rent on the east side, cheap, med student friendly, cash okay, do not answer it. He's polite, he pays early, and whatever he's growing, it's almost ready to move. Part 2 coming as soon as I'm somewhere safe. I'm in the parking lot of a 24-hour taco cabana off Riverside now, engine running, doors locked, eating a bean and cheese taco I don't even taste because my stomach is too busy trying to eat itself. My phone is on a portable charger plugged into the cigarette lighter, and I'm typing as fast as I can before the sun comes up, and I have to decide what the hell I'm doing with the rest of my life. Here's what's happened since part 1. Week 6 was when the hunger turned into something else, something alive. It wasn't just empty anymore. It was moving. I'd be sitting at my desk trying to finish a client project and feel this slow, rolling wave under my skin, like something long and muscular was sliding from one side of my gut to the other. I lost another 9 pounds that week. My favorite t-shirt hung off me like a tent. My hip bones stuck out sharp enough to cut paper. Caleb hit 219 on the whiteboard and had to turn sideways to get through doorways. His belly button had started to evert, this weird little pink button poking out like something inside was pushing to get a better look. The bite marks stopped being bruises and started being holes. Little half-moon punctures that scabbed over by morning but wept clear fluid at night. I started wearing 2 pairs of sweatpants to bed. Didn't matter. Whatever was tasting me was getting bolder. I'd wake up with blood crusted on the inside of the fabric and no memory of how it got there. Caleb started humming when he walked past my door, this low, satisfied sound, like a cat purring after it's eaten the canary and knows where the rest of the nest is. He stopped blending his food. Just ate it straight out of the Tupperwares now, standing over the sink with blood running down his chin, chewing slowly, eyes half closed in bliss. The bottom shelf of the fridge was packed solid with opaque containers stacked like bricks. Sometimes one would rock on its own, a gentle side to side like something inside was testing the walls. He caught me staring once and smiled with red teeth and said, "They're almost ready to migrate. Don't worry, you'll feel when it's time." I tried to leave, packed a bag while he was in the shower, planning to crash on a friend's couch until I could figure out a new place. When I opened the front door, he was standing on the porch, dripping wet, naked except for a towel around his waist that barely closed, belly hanging heavy and veined over the edge. He didn't say anything, just looked at me with this soft, disappointed expression and shook his head like I was a kid trying to sneak out past curfew. I closed the door and went back inside. I don't know why. My legs just wouldn't move forward. That night, the hunger woke me up at 2:13 a.m. It felt like something was trying to chew its way out of my stomach from the inside. I stumbled to the kitchen, clutching my gut, and found Caleb sitting at the table in the dark, eating straight from a Tupperware with his fingers. He looked up and smiled, mouth full, and pushed a second container toward me. It was warm. The lid wasn't on all the way, and something inside shifted when the container moved. He said, "You're ready now. It knows you." I ran to the bathroom and threw up nothing but bile and blood. I haven't slept in my bed since. I've been passing out on the couch with every light in the house on and a kitchen knife taped to my hand. Doesn't help. Still wake up with new bites, deeper now, some of them ring-shaped like something tried to take a core sample. My weight is 138 this morning. I started at 174 in March. Caleb is 241. He doesn't fit in any of his clothes anymore. He just wears my biggest hoodie unzipped and a pair of my basketball shorts that ride low under the swell. The skin of his stomach is so thin I can see shapes moving under it when he breathes. Long, slow ripples like eels in a sack. He doesn't blend anything now. Doesn't open the Tupperwares. Just rubs his belly in slow circles and smiles at me like we're sharing a secret. Last night I pretended to pass out on the couch again so I could watch him. At 2:47 a.m., he came out of his room naked, belly huge and low, skin almost translucent, veins dark and branching like rivers on a map. He knelt next to me and pressed his ear to my stomach like he was listening for a heartbeat that wasn't mine. His mouth was open, and I could see strands of something clear and glistening stretching between his teeth. He stayed there for 9 minutes, breathing me in, eyes closed, one hand on his own gut like he was feeling for an answer. When he finally stood up, he pressed both palms to the swell and whispered, "Almost ready, it's so strong now." I waited until he went back to his room, then ran to the bathroom scale. 136. His whiteboard says 248. I can feel it when I lie still. Something sliding under my skin, slow and patient, tasting its way toward the surface. I'm out of the house now, but I don't know where to go. Every friend I have is asleep, and I'm scared to stop moving. My thighs are wrapped in gauze because the newest bites won't stop bleeding. They're not bruises anymore. They're mouths. Part 3 coming when I find somewhere I can plug in and breathe for 5 minutes without feeling teeth. If anyone in Austin sees this and has a couch or a floor or literally anywhere I can crash tonight, please DM me. I have $47 and a full tank of gas, and I swear I'll be gone by morning. I'm in the parking lot of a closed-down Stripes off E35 north of Georgetown, engine off to save gas, doors locked, knife on the dash, typing this on 4% battery with the dome light on because the dark feels worse. This is everything that's happened since part 2. I don't know how much time I have left. Week 10 started with blood in my piss. Bright red, swirling in the toilet like food coloring. I hadn't eaten beets, I hadn't fallen. I hadn't done anything except lose another 11 pounds and wake up every morning with new rings of teeth marks climbing higher on my thighs, closer to the groin, like something was working its way up. My skin had gone gray and papery. I could see every vein in my arms, blue roads under rice paper. The hunger was constant now, this deep, sucking void that made my vision pulse at the edges, but food didn't help. I'd shovel down 3 bean burritos, and 20 minutes later feel emptier than before. Caleb hit 270 on the whiteboard and stopped writing the numbers in the little box. He just wrote, Caleb plus Ryan equals 1 in huge red letters across the whole board and underlined it 3 times. He stopped pretending to be human at all. Walked around naked, belly hanging so low it brushed his thighs when he moved. The skin was almost see-through now. I could see the thing inside him moving in slow, deliberate loops, thick as my forearm, pressing against the inside of his stomach like it was looking for the weakest spot. He didn't eat, didn't open the Tupperwares. Just rubbed that belly in slow circles and hummed, eyes rolled back, drool shining on his chin. Sometimes he'd catch me staring and smile with teeth that looked longer, sharper, stained dark at the tips. 3 nights ago, the power went out for 47 minutes. Whole block went dark. The fridge alarm started screaming. Caleb shuffled out of his room moaning this low, wet sound, hands cradling the swell like it was in pain. He opened the fridge and just stood there in the dark, door wide, light from the street lamps cutting across his body. I watched from the couch pretending to be asleep. Something long and pale slid out of one of the Tupperwares and up his arm, wrapping twice around his wrist before disappearing into his mouth. He swallowed once, throat bulging, and sighed like he'd just come. Yesterday, I tried to leave again. Packed everything I owned into 2 trash bags and walked out at noon while he was in the shower. Got as far as the sidewalk before my legs gave out. I collapsed right there on the concrete, vision tunneling, feeling that thing inside me thrash like it had been waiting for its chance. Caleb opened the front door naked, belly swaying, and looked down at me with so much tenderness it made me want to scream. He said, voice soft, "You can't run yet. It's not strong enough to steer on its own." Then he picked me up. I weigh 129 now. He lifted me like a child and carried me back inside, laid me on the couch, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "Almost, baby. Almost." Tonight it finishes. I woke up an hour ago because the pain was finally too much. I was on the living room floor, naked, arranged on my back with my legs spread. Caleb was kneeling between them, hands on my knees, belly resting heavy on my thighs. His skin had split in a long vertical line from sternum to pubic bone, edges peeled back like a jacket, and the thing inside was sliding out slow and wet, pale and thick and segmented, head the size of a fist, blind, questing. It tasted the air with a mouth that opened in a perfect circle of needle teeth. Caleb was crying and smiling at the same time, stroking my hair, saying over and over, "It chose you, Ryan. It chose you because you're empty now. There's so much room." It touched my stomach, and the hunger stopped. Just stopped. Like a switch flipped. I felt it slide inside the way you feel cold water when you swallow. Only lower, deeper, curling up under my ribs like it had always belonged there. Caleb leaned down and kissed my mouth, tasting like blood and raw meat, and whispered, "Welcome home." I managed to crawl out the window while he was cleaning himself up. Left everything. Phone almost dead. Car keys still in my pocket by some miracle. Drove until the tank was under a quarter and pulled over here. I can feel it settling, stretching, tasting its new house. It's warm and heavy and it loves me. My ribs don't show anymore. If you're reading this and you still have time, do not take a roommate who pays in cash and asks for the whole bottom shelf. Do not open the Tupperwares. Do not let him carry you back inside. I'm going to drive until the car dies or it decides where we're going next. If this post stops, someone salt and burn the duplex on Redacted and East 12th. Tell them the cleanse worked. It just wanted a cleaner host. I don't know how much longer I can steer. It's quiet now, but it's thinking. I'm 28. I do UI/UX freelance when the gigs actually pay. And I live in a crumbling 1911 Craftsman in Northeast Portland that used to be charming when rent was $1,800 and now feels like a slow death at $2,900 a month. The house has original fir floors that creak like they're gossiping about you, a clawfoot tub that takes 20 minutes to fill, and a backyard full of blackberry brambles that bleed purple every summer. By late March, I was one overdraft fee from having to move into my 2008 Civic and shower at Planet Fitness, so I threw up the usual desperate Craigslist ad. Queer-friendly, 420 okay, no couples, no pets over 40 pounds, must have verifiable income and not be a serial killer. I got 85 replies in 2 days, crypto bros who wanted to pay in Dogecoin, a couple looking for a third for our polycule, one guy who sent a dick pic with the caption, rent negotiable, and then, on the third day, a single message that looked almost too normal. The subject line was just, room inquiry, Jonah. No emojis, no all caps, perfect punctuation. The body was one paragraph. Peace. Micah. I saw your listing and felt an immediate resonance. I'm transitioning out of a long-term intentional living community south of Eugene and seeking a temporary landing place while I reintegrate into the city. I'm 31, quiet, employed through our co-op, herbal medicine and sacred goods. Excellent references, cash available immediately. I keep a clean space and honor boundaries. Would love to come by tomorrow if that works. Many blessings, Jonah. Attached were 4 references with names like River, Oak, Ember, and Willow, all glowing, plus a scanned bank statement from Abundant Root Cooperative, showing a balance that made my eyes water. I messaged back that tomorrow at 4 p.m. worked. He replied instantly with a single sunflower emoji and, see you then, brother. He showed up at 3:57 p.m. in the rain, wearing cream-colored linen head to toe, loose pants, long-sleeve shirt buttoned to the throat, even cream-colored canvas shoes that somehow stayed clean. No jacket. Hair the color of wheat, tied back in a low knot. No backpack, no phone in his hand, just a small leather satchel slung across his body, and a calm, open smile that felt too big for his face. He stepped inside, took one slow breath through his nose, closed his eyes for a full 5 seconds and said, "This land remembers blood. It's good soil." Then he opened his eyes and the smile got wider. I already feel at home. He walked through the house without asking, trailing his fingers along the walls like he was reading Braille, stopping in each room to breathe deep and nod. When he got to the empty bedroom, peeling sage green paint, single window facing the neighbor's dying cedar, he stood in the center, palms open at his sides, and started rocking almost imperceptibly. After a solid minute, he turned to me and said, "Yes, this is the one." Then he counted out $7,800 in cash on my kitchen table, first, last deposit, plus an extra $600 for shared energy maintenance, folded his hands, and asked if he could smudge the house with mugwort, cedar, and deer fat before bringing his things in. I laughed because the money was real, and the bank was closed, and I was 2 days from eviction. I said, "Sure, man. Knock yourself out." He moved in that same night with one medium-sized canvas duffel, a wooden crate of dried herbs that smelled like a butcher shop, and a greenhouse had a baby, and a rolled-up wool blanket the color of storm clouds. He smudged every corner of the house for 3 straight hours, singing under his breath in a language that sounded like wind through tall grass. The smoke was thick and sweet and coppery and clung to everything. I opened windows. He just smiled and said, "It's good to let the old energies know new stewardship has arrived." The first 3 weeks were almost normal. He was quieter than any roommate I'd ever had. He rose before dawn, meditated on the back porch facing east, palms up, rocking gently, mouthing words I couldn't hear. He cooked enormous pots of lentil and root stew that filled the house with the smell of wet earth and something faintly metallic, left passive-aggressive little notes on the lids that said, "Nourishment for any soul who feels called hearts," in perfect handwriting. He burned bundles of herbs that left a smoky, bloody sweetness in the air and made my dreams weirdly vivid. Endless fields of waist-high grass, bare feet on warm soil, the sound of 100 voices whispering my name in perfect unison. I ate the stew once, woke up the next morning feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, cried for no reason in the shower, and decided to stick to my own food after that. He started inviting me to family dinner on the second Thursday he lived here. Knocked softly on my door at exactly 6:17 p.m., holding a tiny ceramic cup of something dark and steaming, and said in the gentlest voice, "The family is gathering tonight if you feel called to join us. There's always a seat for you at the table, Micah of the house." I laughed and said I had a client deadline. He just nodded, completely understanding, no pressure, and said, "Of course, brother. When the time is right, you'll know." Then he pressed the little cup into my hand and walked away. It was warm. I poured it down the sink. It left a red ring that took 3 rounds of bleach to remove. By week 5, the invitations were every Thursday and Sunday. Then, every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Then every night. He stopped saying, "If you feel called," and started saying, "When you're ready to come home." He'd stand in my doorway, holding that same ceramic cup, rolling it between his palms like worry beads, watching me with this calm, patient, hungry look that made my stomach knot. He started calling me Micah of the house, instead of just Micah, like I'd already been initiated into something I hadn't agreed to. He started leaving little gifts outside my door, a single hawk feather, a smooth river stone with my initials carved into it, a tiny bundle of dried herbs tied with red thread that smelled like blood and lavender. I came home one Tuesday, and every single personal photo in the common areas had been replaced with pictures of me. Some I recognized, old Instagram posts printed out. Most I didn't. Me asleep on the couch with my mouth open. Me brushing my teeth, eyes half closed. Me staring out the kitchen window holding a coffee cup taken from behind. They were all framed in plain, unstained wood and hung in perfect rows above the couch like a gallery show titled, "Micah Becoming." Jonah was sitting cross-legged on the living room floor burning something in a clay bowl that smelled like wet earth and pennies, rocking, humming low in his throat. When he saw me, he looked up with tears in his eyes and this huge, radiant smile and said, "We wanted you to feel seen, brother. Welcome to the wall. I'm at a library in Vancouver, Washington right now using a public computer because I'm scared to turn my phone back on. Parts 2 to 4 coming as soon as I find another safe spot. If you're in Portland and see a room for rent in a Big Blue Craftsman in Alberta, cheap, cash-preferred, community-minded souls only, do not answer it. They don't need your references. They already know everything. I'm on a library computer in Beaverton now, hoodie up, sitting where I can see both doors and the parking lot at the same time. My hands are shaking so bad I keep hitting the wrong keys. This is everything that happened after the wall of photos went up. I'm typing it exactly as it happened because if I stop to make it pretty, I'll start screaming. I lost my shit when I saw my sleeping face staring back at me from 15 angles. I stormed into the living room yelling, "What the fuck is this? Who took these? Delete them right now." Jonah didn't stand up. He was still in his salt circle, rocking, eyes shining like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. He said, voice soft as ever, "Micah of the house, your anger is just fear wearing a mask. The family only wants you to feel seen. We've been watching you for months. You're already one of us in the dreaming." I told him to take them down or I was calling the cops. He smiled the way you smile at a toddler having a tantrum and said, "The police are part of the old world, brother. They can't cross the threshold once the circle is drawn." Then he tilted his head and added, almost gently, "Besides, you gave permission when you accepted the money. It was witnessed." He gestured to the circle of salt like there were invisible people standing in it, nodding along. I slept with my bedroom door locked, a chair under the knob, and my biggest kitchen knife under the pillow. Didn't help. Every morning when I opened the door, there were new photos. Me in the shower, steam fogging the lens, but my silhouette clear enough to make my stomach drop. Me on the toilet, head in my hands, taken from above like someone had been on the ceiling. Me crying in bed at 3:12 a.m. I don't remember crying. All perfectly lit, all perfectly framed, all hung before I woke up. I started covering every camera I owned with electrical tape. New photos still appeared. Jonah started leaving little handwritten notes under my door in red ink that looked too thick. You looked so peaceful last night. Your third eye chakra is opening beautifully. We can't wait to taste you at the table. The invitations stopped being invitations. Every night at exactly 6:17 p.m. he'd knock once, always once, open the door without waiting, and stand there holding that dark ceramic cup. The liquid inside was always warm, always left a red ring in the sink that took bleach and steel wool to remove. He stopped saying, "If you feel called," and started saying, "When you're ready to come home." Then he stopped saying when and just said, "Tonight." He'd stand in my doorway rolling the cup between his palms, watching me with this calm, patient hunger that made my skin crawl. His eyes had changed. The pupils were too big, black swallowing the brown, reflecting light wrong. He stopped wearing shoes, walked barefoot everywhere. The soles of his feet were black with dirt that never washed off no matter how much he scrubbed. At night, I'd hear him pacing the hallway. Barefoot slap, pause right outside my door, whisper my name through the gap at the bottom, then keep walking. The footprints started showing up in blood. Perfect circles around my bedroom door every morning, still wet when I stepped in them. I started sleeping in my clothes, shoes on, keys in my hand. He brought the family home without warning. I'd come back from the grocery store and there'd be 8, 10, 15 people in cream linen sitting cross-legged in the living room, rocking in perfect unison, humming a note so low it made my teeth ache. They never spoke to me, just turned their heads all at once when I walked in and watched me with the same calm, pitying smile. Like I was a lost lamb they were patiently waiting to collect. One night there were 31. They'd drawn a salt circle that covered the entire living room floor and were burning something in a clay bowl that smelled exactly like the inside of my own mouth after the dentist. Jonah was naked in the center, body painted with red handprints that weren't his hand size, eyes rolled back, rocking harder than the rest. When he saw me, he opened his arms and said, voice cracking with joy, "Welcome home, Micah of the house. We've prepared everything." I tried to leave that night. Packed a backpack while they hummed, slipped out the back door, planning to crash at my friend Danny's in St. John's. Got 3 steps into the backyard before my legs locked up. Couldn't move, couldn't scream. My body just stopped like someone else was holding the reins. Jonah walked out barefoot, naked, smiling this soft, disappointed smile, and said, "You're not ready to leave the land yet. The roots haven't finished drinking." Then he picked me up. I'm 5 feet 10 inches and 165 pounds. He lifted me like a child and carried me back inside, laid me on the couch, kissed my forehead with lips that tasted like copper and whispered, "Soon." I started finding the little glass vials everywhere after that. In my shoes, taped under my desk, one in my cereal bowl floating in the milk. Dark red liquid, always warm, labeled in Jonah's perfect handwriting. Micah, day 44. Micah, day 51. Micah, day 59. One was labeled Micah, first blood, and had a single fingerprint pressed into the dried blood on the outside. I stopped drinking anything that wasn't sealed. He noticed. Started leaving sealed bottles of spring water outside my door with notes that said, "Hydration for the vessel hearts." Last Thursday, the invitations became announcements. Jonah knocked once at 6:17 p.m., opened my door without waiting, and said, "Tonight is the night, Micah of the house. The family has voted. Your seat is at the head now." He was wearing a crown made of deer antlers and nothing else. Behind him in the hallway stood 13 people in cream linen, all holding the same dark ceramic cups, all smiling with tears streaming down their faces like they were at a wedding. I ran, shoved past them, out the front door, down the steps, into my car. Didn't stop until I was across the river. I'm crashing in library parking lots and laundromats now, using public computers because my phone started receiving texts from my own number that just say, "Come home, we're starving. Part 3 coming tonight if I can stay awake and find another safe computer." If you live in Portland and see a room for rent in a Big Blue Craftsman in Alberta, cheap, cash-preferred, community-minded souls only, do not answer it. They don't knock. They just wait until you let them in. I'm in a 24-hour laundromat in Gresham right now, back pressed to the cinder block wall, laptop balanced on a folding table that wobbles every time the industrial dryers kick on. I can see both entrances and the plate glass window that looks out on the parking lot. I've been watching the same white van with no plates circle the block for the last 43 minutes. Every time it passes, the headlights cut out for exactly 3 seconds, and I swear I see cream linen in the driver's seat. My hands are shaking so hard the cursor keeps jumping. This is everything that happened after I ran. I made it across the river that night, drove north on I-5 with the pedal on the floor, checking the rear view every heartbeat. 45 minutes of pure panic, and I was convinced I was clear. Pulled into a Walmart parking lot in Vancouver at 3:58 a.m., locked the doors, reclined the seat, set my phone on the dash to charge. Fell asleep still gripping the steering wheel. Woke up to 3 soft knocks on the driver's side window. Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap, tap. Jonah was standing outside in the drizzle, barefoot, cream linen soaked and clinging to his body like wet paper. The antler crown was gone, but fresh red handprints, too small to be adult, were painted across his chest and throat. He smiled when my eyes snapped open, pressed both palms to the glass, and mouthed the words slow enough that I could read his lips in the dark. "We miss you, Micah of the house." His breath fogged the window in perfect circles. I floored it backward, tires screaming, almost hit a shopping cart corral. When I looked in the rear view, he was still standing in the same spot, palms up now, head tilted, watching me go with that soft, heartbroken smile. I drove another 20 minutes, took random turns, got off the freeway, got back on, anything to shake the feeling that the road was looping. Finally pulled into a Shell station to breathe. Looked at the dashboard clock, 4:37 a.m., looked at the street signs. I was on Alberta again, 3 blocks from the house. My car had brought me home without me noticing a single turn. The porch light was on, front door wide open like a mouth. Every light in the house glowing warm and gold, the way my mom used to leave them when I was a kid and afraid of the dark. I could hear humming from inside. That same low, teeth-rattling note the family uses when they rock. My phone, which I'd left on the kitchen counter 12 hours earlier, was ringing on the porch steps. The ringtone was the humming, only louder, layered, like 30 voices braided together. I got close enough to see the screen. Incoming call, Micah of the house. I left the car running and walked the other way. Didn't stop until I was 6 miles away and my legs gave out in a 24-hour McDonald's bathroom. Locked myself in a stall and sat on the toilet fully clothed, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, it's been a game of cat and mouse where the cat never hurries and the mouse is running out of places to hide. Every 24-hour spot I find, laundromats, lobbies, all-night gyms, someone in cream linen shows up within an hour, never speaks, never hurries, just appears a few tables away, rocking gently, hands folded in their lap, watching me with that same soft, pitying smile. Sometimes it's Jonah. Sometimes it's a woman with long red hair I've never seen. Sometimes it's a child no older than 10 with eyes too old for the face. They all smell faintly of wet earth and copper. They all carry the same dark ceramic cup. The texts from my own number never stop. They come in perfect rhythm, every 47 minutes. The table is set. Your cup is warm. The land brought you back because it loves you. We can still smell you on the wind. 2 nights ago, I thought I was safe in a 24-hour gym locker room. Paid for a day pass. Locked myself in a shower stall with the water running full blast so no one could hear me breathe. At 2:13 a.m., the temperature plummeted. The water turned ice cold without me touching the handle. When I looked down, the drain was full of dark red liquid swirling counterclockwise, slow and deliberate. Something brushed my ankle under the water, soft, deliberate, like fingers checking ripeness. I yanked my foot back, and the thing followed, coiling once around my calf before I kicked the stall door open and ran out soaking wet and barefoot. They were waiting in the parking lot. 13 people in cream linen standing in a perfect circle under the sodium lights, holding hands, rocking in unison. Jonah stood in the center holding my phone like a priest with a chalice. He lifted it toward me and said, voice carrying clear across the asphalt, "You left this at home, brother. We've been keeping it safe." The circle parted just enough to show the open space where I was clearly meant to step in. I ran until my lungs burned and haven't stopped moving since. I'm out of money. Car is gone, towed or taken. I have $11.47 left and the clothes on my back. The laundromat closes in 38 minutes. After that, I don't know. The vial is still in my pocket. It's warmer than my own skin now. Sometimes it pulses. I can hear them humming outside. Not loud, just enough to feel in my bones. Part 4 coming as soon as I find somewhere with a deadbolt that actually works. If you see this and you're in Portland, do not stop if you see people in cream linen. Do not look at their eyes. Do not take the cup they offer. Just keep walking. This is the last part. I don't know if I'll be able to post again. I'm in the back office of a closed-down church on 82nd, door barricaded with a filing cabinet, typing on a dusty old desktop that still works because the power never got shut off. The only light is the screen glow and a street lamp bleeding through the frosted window. I can hear them outside now. Soft, barefoot steps on gravel. The humming never stops. I lasted 4 more days after part 3. 4 days of laundromats, all-night diners, library bathrooms, sleeping in stairwells with my backpack strapped to my chest. Every place I went, they were already there or arrived within the hour. Never rushing, never angry, just patient. Always the same cream linen, same soft rocking, same dark ceramic cups. The child started showing up alone. 10 years old at most, barefoot, red hair to her waist, eyes like deep wells. She'd sit a few feet away and stare without blinking, head tilted, humming that low note that made my teeth ache. One night in a 24-hour Fred Meyer bathroom, she crawled under the stall door while I was pissing and just sat there cross-legged, watching me, smiling. I screamed. She didn't flinch, just held out her little cup and whispered, "It's time to come home, Micah of the house." I stole a bike from a porch in Lentz and rode until my legs gave out. Ended up at the edge of Forest Park just before dawn. Collapsed under a cedar tree and finally slept for the first time in days. Woke up to Jonah sitting beside me, stroking my hair. He was naked except for the antler crown again, body covered in fresh red handprints that weren't dry yet. The family was in a circle about 20 feet away, all facing us, rocking, humming. Jonah smiled like a proud parent and said, "You ran so far, brother." But the land always brings you back. I tried to stand and couldn't. My legs were asleep, or something else was holding them down. He opened his hand and showed me the vial from my pocket. I hadn't even felt him take it. It was empty. He said, "You drank it in your sleep. The root has you now." I don't remember drinking anything. They carried me after that. I was awake but couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't close my eyes. 6 of them lifted me like a stretcher, hands gentle, humming louder. We walked for what felt like hours through the city, but never passed a single car or person. Streets empty, traffic lights cycling for no one. They brought me back to the house. The front door was painted red now. Inside, every wall was covered floor to ceiling with photos of me. Hundreds, thousands. Some from years ago, some from yesterday, some from angles that shouldn't exist. The living room floor had been stripped to bare earth and planted with tiny white flowers that smelled like blood. They laid me on a table made of smooth cedar in the center of the salt circle. Jonah stood at my head, antler crown dripping, and the family formed rings around us. 13, 26, 52 people all in cream linen, all rocking, all humming that same low note that was inside my bones now. Someone started passing the cups. Everyone drank. When it reached Jonah, he tilted my head back, kissed my forehead, and poured the last cup into my mouth. It tasted like warm earth and pennies and home. I can feel it growing now. Roots under my skin, spreading from my stomach to my fingertips, my toes, my tongue. The humming is inside me. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm hungry. They're carrying me somewhere. I can smell pine and wet soil and smoke. There's a fire ahead. tall and clean. They're singing my name in perfect unison, over and over, like a heartbeat. If you see this and you're still free, do not take the cup. Do not accept the money. Do not let them rename you. The table is set, my seat is warm. They were never inviting me to dinner. They were waiting for me to become it. If this stops, someone salt and burn the big blue house on Alberta. Tell them the family finally sat down to eat. I'm 26 and I live in a blue shotgun house in the bywater that leans a little to the left like it's tired of standing. The walls are thin enough that I can hear the termites chewing, the neighbors arguing about whose turn it is to buy weed, and the hum of the ancient fridge in the kitchen like it's sitting right next to my head. The whole place smells like low tide, old beer, and something coppery that never quite leaves the air no matter how many windows I crack or how much bleach I pour down the drains. Rent jumped to $2,400 after the landlord decided the back studio could technically be a fourth bedroom. And by late April, I was one overdraft fee away from sleeping in my 2009 Civic with the seats folded down and a knife under the passenger seat. I put the usual desperate ad on every Facebook group, every Nextdoor thread, every Instagram story I could think of. Queer-friendly, 420 okay, no couples, must have job and not be a murderer. I got one single reply that didn't smell like a scam. Seraphine answered at 2:13 a.m. with a single paragraph in perfect cursive font, asking if the house honored boundaries and kept common spaces sacred. She showed up the next afternoon in a black linen dress that looked expensive and old at the same time, the hem brushing the tops of her bare feet, carrying nothing but a small canvas suitcase and a wooden box the size of a shoebox that she never let leave her sight. Paid first plus last plus deposit plus an extra $600 for energetic maintenance in cash before she'd even seen the room, counted it out on the kitchen table like she'd done it 1,000 times, all 20s, still warm from her hand. When I asked for references, she just smiled this tiny, sharp smile and said, "The house will tell you if I belong." Her eyes were black from edge to edge, no iris, no sclera, just black. I told myself it was a trick of the light and the envelope was thick. She moved in that same night, swept every inch of the house with a broom made from something that looked like dried palmetto and smelled like a grave, left little clay bowls of salt and black pepper in every corner, refreshed them at dusk without ever seeming to run out. Burned bundles of herbs that left the air thick and sweet and coppery, made my dreams feel too close to the surface, like someone was walking across my chest while I slept. She introduced herself to me and Jules, my other roommate 30, bartender at a pirate-themed bar on Frenchman, loud, lovable, chronically broke, as an intuitive folk practitioner who works with ancestral medicines and protective bindings. Jules thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard, started calling her Professor McGonagall, flicked salt out of the bowls just to watch her sweep it up again without a word, face calm, eyes unreadable. The first doll showed up on a Thursday. It was our landlord, Mr. Guidry, who'd been texting me nonstop about raising the rent again because the market. I woke up to a little cloth doll sitting on the kitchen table like it was waiting for coffee. Burlap face, button eyes, tiny polo shirt stitched from an actual scrap of one of his ugly shirts. I recognized the coffee stain. One straight pin driven clean through the left knee. That same afternoon, Mr. Guidry called screaming that he'd fallen off his own porch and shattered his kneecap, had to have emergency surgery, wouldn't be able to show the house for months. Seraphine was in the kitchen sipping chicory from a black mug, smiling into the steam like someone who'd just gotten good news. Jules laughed so hard he cried, called it the best coincidence in New Orleans history, and that night got blackout drunk and knocked over every single salt bowl in the house, grinding the grains into the floorboards with his boot heel while yelling, "Take that, Hogwarts!" The next morning there was a new doll on the counter. Bright red yarn hair exactly like Jules', tiny leather bracelet made from a snippet of the one he never takes off, black thread sewn across its mouth in perfect tiny X's that looked wet. Jules woke up choking, tongue swollen to twice its size, lips blue, clawing at his throat like something was inside squeezing. I found him on the bathroom floor turning purple, called 911 while trying to hold him down. The operator kept asking if he was being strangled and I kept screaming there was nothing there. Urgent care pumped him full of epi and steroids, said severe allergic reaction to unknown cause. Seraphine brewed him mugwort and graveyard dirt tea and sat on the edge of his bed stroking his hair while he gagged, whispering, "Some lessons have to hurt, Cher. You'll learn." I started noticing the pattern after that. The UPS guy rang the bell 3 times instead of leaving the package. Doll appeared on the porch railing that night with a pin through its throat. Next day, he lost his voice completely, had to call out for a week. The neighbor's dog barked after midnight, tiny dog doll on the back steps with its legs twisted backward at impossible angles. Dog stopped barking permanently. Vet said both back legs mysteriously paralyzed overnight. The barista at the place on Chartres got Seraphine's order wrong twice in 1 week. Doll showed up on the mailbox with pins through both eyes. Barista walked face first into a glass door the next morning and needed 23 stitches across her forehead. The Lyft driver who took too long finding the house, doll in the mailbox with a pin through its right hand. Driver totaled his car that night, crushed every bone in that hand. She never threatened anyone out loud, never raised her voice, just smiled that little cat smile and went back to stitching. I tried to stay on her good side. Paid rent 2 days early, kept my music off after 10 p.m., started sweeping the porch myself so she wouldn't have to. It worked for almost 3 weeks. Then Jules missed rent again. He'd been picking up every extra shift he could, came home drunk at 4 a.m., owing me $750, promised he'd have it by Friday. Seraphine was in the kitchen when he stumbled in, sitting at the table under a single red bulb, stitching by candlelight. She didn't look up, just asked in this soft, sweet voice, "Do you think it's fair that some of us carry others who refuse to carry their weight?" Jules laughed, called her Wednesday Addams, and passed out on the couch. I laughed with him because I was terrified not to. That night, the screaming started. I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to Jules thrashing in his bed, clawing at his own throat, eyes bulging, face turning purple. No hands on him. Nothing around his neck. Just pure, animal terror. I ran in and tried to hold him down while calling 911. The operator kept asking if he was being choked, and I kept screaming there was nothing there. By the time the paramedics arrived, he was unconscious, lips blue, pulse barely there. They got him breathing again in the ambulance, said his airway had swollen shut for no reason. There was a new doll on his dresser. Red yarn hair matted with something dark and wet. Black thread sewn across its mouth in perfect X's. One long pin driven straight through its throat, so deep the tip came out the other side, dripping red. Seraphine stood in the hallway watching the paramedics carry him out, arms folded, expression completely calm. When they loaded Jules into the ambulance, she touched his forehead gently and whispered, "Some debts have to be paid in flesh." He's been in ICU for 12 days now. Still can't speak. Still can't breathe without a tube. The doctors keep saying idiopathic laryngeal edema and looking at me like I poisoned him. This morning there was a doll on my pillow when I woke up. It's me. Same dark brown hair I've had since high school. Same chipped front tooth from 8th grade. Same little scar on my left eyebrow from when I fell off my bike at 12. Dressed in an exact replica of the t-shirt I fell asleep in, down to the tiny hole on the hem and the faint bleach stain on the sleeve. My own hair and a piece of my fingernail stitched into the head. My name written on the chest in red thread that looks wet. There was no pin at first. Just a little note in Seraphine's perfect handwriting pinned to its chest with a single straight pin hovering an inch above the heart. Soon. I'm in a Motel 6 off Chef Montour Highway right now, door triple locked, every light on. Salt line I bought at the quarter store poured across the threshold and the windowsill and the bathroom door because I don't know what else to do. My chest has been hurting since noon. Sharp, stabbing like something inside is practicing. Jules's sister keeps texting, asking why I haven't visited. I can't tell her the truth. I can hear Seraphine humming through the walls even though I'm 20 miles away. That same low lullaby she sang while Jules turned blue. The doll is in my backpack. I couldn't leave it. I don't know why. There are 12 pins in it now. They weren't there an hour ago. Update 6:03 a.m. The pain just moved to my throat. I can taste blood. The doll has 15 pins now. One for every time I thought about calling the cops. If this stops updating, someone salt and burn the blue shotgun house on Dauphine. Tell them the collection is complete. I just checked the doll again, and there are 18 pins now. 18. They keep appearing while I'm looking away for 2 seconds to breathe. One just slid in on its own while I was typing that last sentence. Slow, like someone testing how deep they can go before I scream. My left lung feels collapsed. Every breath is wet. I can hear her humming through the motel wall even though I'm 30 miles from the house. It's the same lullaby she sang when Jules turned blue, only slower now, lower, like she's singing inside my skull. The salt line I poured is sweating. Little beads of moisture rolling across the grains, leaving dark trails that look like blood in the fluorescent light. The doll's mouth just opened. There's red thread sewn across it in perfect X's now, same as Jules's doll had. I didn't see her do it. I tried to throw the doll out the window an hour ago, opened the backpack, grabbed it by the leg, and my hand locked up. Fingers curled so tight the nails cut half moons into my palm. Couldn't let go. The doll smiled at me, cloth mouth, button eyes, but it smiled. I felt the expression on my own face at the same time, like my muscles were copying it without permission. There are 21 pins now. My heart keeps skipping beats. I can feel each one land like a hammer on the inside of my ribs. The doll's chest is rising and falling in time with mine, only slower, deeper, like it's learning how to breathe for both of us. I'm not in control of my hands anymore. They keep reaching for the doll, stroking its hair, my hair, arranging the pins in perfect circles. I'm watching myself do it and screaming inside, but nothing comes out. 24 pins. The humming is inside my teeth now. I think this is the end of the post. If you find this phone, burn everything. The doll just blinked. Update 6:19 a.m. 30 pins. My vision is tunneling. The last thing I can move is my thumb, and it's typing this whether I want it to or not. She's here. I'm 24. I moved to Atlanta 9 months ago for a junior copywriter job that sounded like a step up until I saw the rent prices. And by May, I was one missed paycheck from eating plain rice for the rest of the month. I needed a roommate, or I was done. Posted in every single Facebook group, every roommate app, every possible corner of the internet. Female roommate wanted, Midtown, Beltline area, queer-friendly, clean, no pets, must-have job and not be weird, $1,200 plus utilities. I got 87 replies that were all scams, couples looking for a third, or dudes sending unsolicited shirtless pics. Then, on the 88th, a message that looked almost too perfect. Her name on the account was Lila Monroe, 26, Senior Influencer Marketing Coordinator, profile full of golden hour selfies, quotes about raising your vibration, and perfectly curated stories of brunches and rooftop bars. Her first message was a 30-second voice note in this bubbly, warm, slightly southern voice. "Oh my God, babe. The second I saw your post, I got full-body chills, like the universe literally just dropped my new best friend in my lap. I've been manifesting a roommate who feels like an actual sister, and here you are." She sent a selfie blowing a kiss, 3 hard eyes emojis, and her Venmo handle before I'd even responded. By the time I typed back, "Hey, when can you come see the place?" she had already sent first month's rent, last month's rent, security deposit, and an extra $500 with the memo, "Girl Dinner Fund Hearts." I stared at my phone for a solid minute, thinking it was a scam, but the money was real and the bank wasn't going to reverse it, so I said yes. She showed up 2 days later in a white Jeep Wrangler with the top down, music blasting Chappelle Roan, wearing a cropped lavender hoodie and tiny white shorts, hair in perfect beach waves even though it was humid enough to fry an egg on the sidewalk. She screamed when she saw me, ran up the steps, and hugged me so hard my feet left the ground. She smelled like vanilla and some expensive floral perfume and something else I couldn't place, clean, almost clinical under the sweetness. She kept saying, "I just know we're gonna be inseparable," and "the universe is so good to me," while squeezing me like she'd known me for years. She paid the rest in cash, all hundreds still in bank bands, handed me an extra $400 in a pink envelope that said, "For wine nights and Ubers, love you already," and asked if she could smudge the apartment with Palo Santo before bringing her stuff in. I laughed and said, "Sure, whatever, as long as you're not burning the place down." She moved in that same weekend with a U-Haul full of pastel storage bins, a ring light the size of a hula hoop, 3 full-length mirrors, and a wardrobe that looked like it had been stolen from a Revolve warehouse. She redecorated the living room in 48 hours, pink throw pillows, fake ivy everywhere, a neon sign that said, "Good vibes only" in bubblegum pink. She made us matching playlists called Lila and Babe Summer 2024 and blasted them on a rose gold speaker while dancing around in sports bras and dolphin shorts, grabbing my hands and spinning me until I was dizzy and laughing like an idiot. By day 4, she was crawling into my bed at 2 a.m. because she had a nightmare about her abusive ex and needed to feel safe, curling into me like a cat, arm thrown over my waist, whispering, "You're my person now," into my hair. By the end of the first week, she was calling me babe in every sentence, texting me from the bathroom, "Miss your face," and posting stories of us eating cereal on the couch at 3 a.m. with captions like, "Found my soulmate. It's platonic, I swear." She mirrored everything I liked with scary precision. I mentioned liking iced matcha. Suddenly there was a $200 electric frother on the counter and 2 matching tumblers with our initials in glitter vinyl. I said I missed thrift store clothes from college. She came home with 5 garbage bags of vintage baby tees and low-rise jeans and insisted we do a twin day every weekend. She'd do my makeup for fun and take 1,000 selfies, posting them with captions like "My favorite human" and "She's the sister I always wanted." She told every barista, every Uber driver, every coworker who came over that we were basically married. She cried the night I got a small promotion at work, said no one had ever been proud of her like that, hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. She made us friendship bracelets with tiny evil eye beads and made me swear to never take mine off. She never let me be alone for long. If I shut my door to work, she'd knock every 15 minutes with a new iced coffee or a new TikTok or just to see your pretty face. If I went out without her, she'd spam me with texts. "Where are you, babe? Who are you with? Miss you so much it physically hurts." She started sleeping in my bed 5-6 nights a week, always the little spoon, her leg thrown over mine, hand resting possessively on my stomach. She'd trace circles on my skin and whisper in this sleepy voice, "You're mine now, okay? Promise you'll never leave me." One night, she asked to be added as my emergency contact. "In case anything ever happens, babe, I'd want to be the first to know." I laughed and said, "Sure, whatever." Next day, I got an email from HR saying my emergency contact had been updated to Lila Monroe with her phone number and a new address I didn't recognize. My mom called confused because Lila had answered my phone at 2 a.m., saying I was sleeping it off after a rough night. When I asked Lila about it, she started crying, said she just wanted to protect me because no one else ever has, and I felt like the worst person alive for being mad. She planned an entire bestie content day 3 weeks in. Blindfolded me for the surprise, drove me to Piedmont Park at golden hour with a picnic basket full of White Claw and charcuterie. Spent 5 hours dressing me in increasingly revealing outfits she'd bought without asking, cropped baby tees, micro skirts, body chains, a white lace bralette with nothing under it. Did my makeup with glitter and false lashes, kept adjusting my poses, hand on hip, arch the back, bite your lip, look innocent. Zooming in on my legs, my collarbones, my mouth. Took hundreds of photos and videos on her professional camera, saying over and over, "These are just for us, babe. Private memories, no one else will ever see." She never posted a single one. Then, one random Wednesday, she begged me to practice a trust exercise for her personal growth coaching certification. She blindfolded me with one of her silk sleep masks, spun me around the living room until I was giggling and dizzy. Then suddenly there were 2 men in the apartment, never introduced, just suddenly there, who lifted me fireman style and carried me to her bedroom while she gave instructions like, "Support the neck, keep her relaxed, don't let her struggle." They laid me on her bed and she thanked them, paid them in cash, and they left without a word. She untied the blindfold giggling, saying, "See, babe, you're a natural, you didn't even tense up," like it was the cutest game in the world. She booked us a surprise spa day the next weekend. Blindfolded me again, drove me to a nondescript house in Brookhaven with blacked-out windows. Inside were women in lingerie who gave us manicures and waxed literally everything while men watched through a 2-way mirror I only noticed on the way out. Lila kept whispering, "They just want to see the merchandise up close, babe, relax." Then the parties started. She kept getting invited to these exclusive house parties in Buckhead, mansions with gates, valets, guest lists texted from blocked numbers. She'd beg me to come, say it wasn't fun without me, that the guys throwing them were investors and always looking for pretty brand ambassadors. She'd dress us in matching tiny dresses, do my makeup with glitter and false lashes, drive us in her white Jeep with the top down, music blasting, screaming lyrics at the top of our lungs like we were in a movie. The first party was just a vibe check. Small mansion, maybe 30 people, mostly men in their 30s and 40s, Rolexes, cocaine confidence. They bought us round after round of sweet cocktails that tasted like candy, kept telling me how fresh and marketable I looked, asked detailed questions about my family back home, my student loans, whether I had a passport. Lila filmed everything on her phone for memories, laughing, saying, "They love you already, babe." I felt off, but blamed the drinks. The second party was bigger. She dressed us in matching black mesh dresses that barely covered anything, spent an hour doing my makeup with glitter and false lashes. The house was glass and marble, bass so loud my teeth hurt. Almost no women. The men circled faster, hands on my waist, my lower back, my ass. Someone handed me a drink I didn't order, sweet, sticky, tasted like cough syrup and vodka. I got dizzy fast. Lila disappeared for 40 minutes. I was cornered by 4 men who kept touching my face, my hair, saying, "Lila said you're the shy type, but you'll be perfect once you loosen up." I barely made it to an Uber. The third party was the one where she drugged me. She spent 3 hours getting us ready, matching red satin slip dresses, body glitter, my hair in space buns because the guys love the innocent vibe. Kept saying, "These are the big ones, babe. Just smile and be sweet." The house was a fortress in Buckhead, security at the gate checking names off iPads. Inside was wall-to-wall men. Someone handed me a drink the second I walked in. One sip and the world melted. Colors too bright, sound underwater. Lila kissed my cheek, whispered, "Be good for them," and vanished. I remember fragments, being half carried upstairs by 2 men while the room spun. A bedroom with black sheets and mirrors on the ceiling, hands pulling at my dress, zippers opening, someone saying, "She's perfect, clean record, no family and state, worth at least 50 up front." Lila filming on her phone, laughing, saying, "Told you she'd be easy." Someone pinning my wrists, the taste of fingers in my mouth. Then I vomited, projectile all over the guy holding me down. They dropped me, cursing. I stumbled out a side door, fell downstairs, ran until I hit the street and collapsed in front of an Uber that was dropping someone off. Lila texted the entire ride, "Babe, where did you go?" "They just wanted to talk business. You're being so dramatic. Come back, they're asking for you." I told them you'd be cool. You're ruining everything. I blocked her, crashed at a coworker's, came back the next day with police escort to get my stuff. She'd changed the locks. My room was stripped, mattress gone, clothes gone, laptop gone, every photo of me deleted from my own iCloud. Only thing left was a single envelope on the bare floor with $2,400 cash and a note in her perfect handwriting. "Thanks for the memories, bestie heart. See you soon." The cops said it was a civil matter. She still has my birth certificate, my social security card, every photo she ever took of me. I'm sleeping in my office now. I flinch every time a notification pings. Last night, an unknown number sent a 15-second video. Me asleep on our couch months ago, mouth open, someone's hand sliding up my thigh while a voice whispers, "Such a good girl." I'm quitting my job tomorrow and leaving the state. If you're in Atlanta and a girl named Lila, or any variation, answers your roommate ad with cash and love bombs you within an hour, run. Delete everything. Change your name. She doesn't want a roommate. She wants inventory. Update 6:03 a.m. Another unknown number just texted a peach emoji and a pin drop to the same Buckhead mansion with the message, "Party tonight. Your seat's still warm hearts." I'm gone by sunrise. If this stops, tell someone what happened. Tell them Lila never wanted a friend. She wanted product.